If you've ever felt the sudden urge to disappear, you might think it's depression. But what if it's something completely different? What if this desire to vanish isn't an illness, but a calling? A calling from something within you that is trying to awaken, not die. Let me be very direct with you. I'm talking about that feeling that wakes you up at 3 in the morning. That unexplained weight in your chest. That inner voice that whispers, I don't want to be here anymore. And when you hear that, fear paralyzes you. Because it sounds dangerous. It sounds like something you should rush to resolve with a therapist, or perhaps with medication. But here's what nobody will tell you. Not every desire to disappear means what you think it means. You know that feeling, don't you? Waking up in the morning and, for a brief second, before fully opening your eyes, having that thought, I wish I hadn't woken up. Not necessarily because you want to die, but because the idea of continuing to be who you are, living the life you live, seems unbearable. It's different, it's subtle, but it's real. And when you try to explain it to someone, you hit a wall. How do you describe this emptiness that isn't quite sadness? How do you put a name to this exhaustion that sleep won't fix? How do you articulate being trapped in a life that by every measure should make you happy, yet it's slowly choking you? So you head to the doctor. You list your symptoms. No energy. Can't feel joy in things you once loved. Withdrawing from people. This constant desire to just vanish. The diagnosis comes fast. Depression. Here's your prescription. Take it. Give it time. You'll feel better. But you don't get better. Or at least not completely. The meds might dull the edge. They might help you push through the day. Get you out of bed. Keep you going to work. Plaster on a smile. But that core feeling, that void, that pull to disappear, it's still there, waiting, whispering, like it's trying to tell you something you won't listen to. And that's where your true confusion begins. Because if this were just clinical depression, the treatment would work, right? The symptoms would diminish, the fog would lift. You'd go back to being who you were before. But you don't want to go back to being who you were before. That's the part that scares you to admit. You don't want your old life back. You want something completely different, something you can't even name yet. You look at your life and it all feels hollow. The career you picked, the relationships you built, the dreams you chased, everything feels staged, like you're living someone else's story, like you're reading lines that were written for a different person. And this realization terrifies you, because if it's not depression, what is it? If it's not a chemical imbalance that can be corrected with medication, then what is happening to you? Here's what I need to tell you. What if this feeling is your soul speaking? I know how that sounds. It sounds mystical. It sounds like cheap self-help. It sounds like someone minimizing your real pain. But stay with me here, because there's a fundamental difference between two types of disappearance. There's the disappearance that wants to end life. That is real, it's dangerous, and it needs immediate medical intervention. If you are having thoughts of harming yourself, please seek professional help now. This is not a joke, but there's another type of disappearance. The kind that wants to end the life you are living, not your physical existence. The kind that wants to dissolve your current identity because it has become a prison. The kind that recognizes, on some deep level, that you cannot continue being who you have been. That second kind? That's something completely different. Think about it. When you feel this urge to disappear, what exactly do you want to vanish? Your body or your responsibilities? Your obligations? Your social masks? The version of you that everyone expects you to be? When you fantasize about leaving, where do you imagine going? To absolute emptiness? Or to a quiet place where you can finally breathe, where no one knows you, where you can be different? These questions matter. They cut to what's really going on with you. Spiritual traditions have a name for this. For the moment when your old life has stopped working, but you don't know what comes next. When you're caught between two identities, when everything you built begins collapsing and it feels like death, but it's actually metamorphosis. They call it a spiritual awakening. A dark night of the soul, a crisis of consciousness. Here's what modern psychology can't explain. Why do people with objectively great lives, family, career, security, everything they're supposed to want, suddenly feel this bottomless emptiness? Why do successful, functional people wake up one day and not recognize their own existence? The medical answer is simple: chemical imbalance, bad neurotransmitters, genetic predisposition, buried trauma. And yes, those can be part of it. I'm not saying ditch therapy or medication. That would be reckless and dangerous. But what if there's something science can't measure? Something materialism completely overlooks? What if your soul has its own intelligence? What if it knows you're living a lie? That you're betraying who you really are? That you're crushing your true self under mountains of social conditioning, parental expectations, and inherited fears? And what if this desire to disappear is not pathology, but wisdom? Not illness, but cure. Not the end, but the beginning. Ancient cultures understood this. Shamans knew about initiatory death. Mystics spoke of the dark night. Buddhists taught ego dissolution. They all recognized there's a death that doesn't end you, it transforms you. A type of disappearance that is not an escape from life, but an entry into a truer life. Ever noticed how your resistance to treatment might be trying to tell you something? You take the pills, go to therapy, do it all by the book, but something inside knows this isn't the right fit. Depression is real for a lot of people. It's brutally real, and medication helps. But you're different. You're experiencing something standard diagnosis can't name, something deeper than clinical depression. Because what you feel isn't just the absence of happiness. It's the presence of emptiness with a purpose. It's not just apathy. It's existential questioning at the deepest level. It's not just loneliness, it's cosmic isolation. This is a meaning crisis, not a mood crisis. Here's the hardest truth to swallow. This crisis might be necessary. It might be exactly what breaks you free, what shatters the illusions keeping you prisoner, what finally forces you to face questions you've been dodging your whole life. Who am I really? Why am I here? What does my life mean? What does my soul desire? Standard psychology isn't equipped for these questions. You need a different framework, a different vocabulary, a different way of understanding what it means to be human. So tell me, when you feel this desire to disappear, are you wanting to die or are you wanting to be reborn? Are you wanting to end everything or are you wanting to start over? Are you fleeing existence or are you seeking a more authentic existence? The difference between these two impulses is the difference between pathology and transformation, between illness and cure, between end and beginning. You might not know the answer yet. You might be lost, terrified, unsure if it's safe to follow this feeling or if it'll destroy you. But what if the part of you wanting to disappear isn't your enemy, it's your ally? What if it's not depression talking, but your soul calling you home, waking you up, calling you toward a self you didn't know was possible? There are two types of disappearance, one that ends life, another that transforms it. And right now, at this moment, you are on the threshold between the two, in that terrifying space where your entire world is collapsing but nothing new has taken shape yet. In that void that feels like ending but might be beginning. The question is not whether you will disappear. Part of you is already disappearing, is already dying. Your old identity, your old patterns, your life as you knew it. The real question is, what type of disappearance will you choose? What psychology can't explain, spirituality reveals. What looks like pathology one way looks like purpose another way. And maybe you're not broken, maybe you're busting loose. But there's more to this story, much more. Because if this truly is a spiritual awakening disguised as depression, there are specific signs, recognizable patterns, characteristics that differentiate an existential crisis from a clinical disorder. And in the next segment, we will explore exactly what your soul is really asking for. We will delve into the signs that reveal whether you are going through depression that needs medical treatment or a spiritual awakening that needs completely different understanding and guidance. Because this desire to disappear, it may not be weakness. It may be the beginning of your awakening. So what type of disappearance are you experiencing? Stay with me and we'll find out together. If you're still watching, you already know that something is different in your experience. You are not here by chance. We've established that psychology sees this as suicidal ideation, as a symptom of depression that needs to be treated. But now let's see what they are failing to see. What I'm about to share will completely reframe everything you thought you knew about this feeling of wanting to disappear. Because here's the truth no one tells you. When you feel this desire to disappear, what is really happening is not a desire to physically die. It is your true self wanting to emerge through the dissolution of your false self. It is your ego that is dying, not you. Let me explain this better. Modern psychology calls it pathology because it doesn't believe in the soul. In scientific materialism, you're nothing but neurons firing and chemicals flowing. So when you say you want to vanish, they hear you want to stop existing, period. But spiritual traditions across every culture for millennia know something different. They understand you're not just a body with a brain. You have layers, a physical form, sure, but also a manufactured identity, an ego self you built for survival. And beneath that, an essence, your true self, your soul that transcends all these surface layers. What's really happening when you feel this pull is your soul is suffocating. It's outgrown the identity you've been wearing. Think of a butterfly crammed in a cocoon that's now too tight. The butterfly doesn't want to die. It wants out. But from the outside, without knowing what metamorphosis looks like, it just looks like something's dying. Look, psychiatric meds try to regulate your brain chemistry. They help you function inside the cocoon. But they don't touch the real problem. Your struggle isn't chemical. It's an identity shift. Your soul saying, the person you've been isn't who you actually are. That's why some people resist treatment. Why some get worse on meds. Not because the treatment's bad, the diagnosis is wrong. They're treating depression when what's happening is spiritual awakening. They're trying to fix something that isn't broken, just evolving. Listen closely to this distinction. Psychology says manage your ego, balance it. Spiritual traditions say ego death is necessary evolution. The ego is your false identity. All the masks, all the roles, all the shoulds you absorb from family and culture. The ego isn't you. It's a suit you put on. When it gets too small, when it chokes you, your soul screams. That scream becomes the urge to vanish. But what wants to disappear isn't you, it's the mask. Here's what psychology can't tell you. This feeling means you're spiritually sensitive, not crazy. You can sense there's something beyond the surface. You feel your life is inauthentic. That's not sickness, that's awareness. Your crisis isn't sickness. It's awakening. Your soul demanding evolution. And it hurts because real transformation always hurts. Birth hurts. Metamorphosis hurts. The ego dies screaming because it fights for survival with everything it's got. Mystics worldwide have named this. Christian mystics call it the dark night of the soul. Buddhists see it as dissolving the attachment to self. Shamans call it initiatory death. Every tradition agrees spiritual birth requires something to die. Why does it feel like actual death? Because for the ego it is. The ego is identity itself, and when identity dissolves, every alarm bell goes off. Your brain can't tell the difference between ego death and physical death. To the ego, they're identical. So you panic, despair, feel that pull to vanish. But what's dying isn't you. It's the old version, the identity you've outgrown. Picture this. Your whole life you've been taught to believe things about yourself. Success looks one way. You should behave a certain way. Happiness comes from specific things. Hide these parts of you if you want to belong. So you built a whole identity on these teachings, and it worked for a while. You survived, fit in, got through life okay. Then came a moment when the mask got too heavy. You looked in the mirror and saw a stranger. Woke up unable to keep pretending your life makes any sense. That's the moment the soul roars louder than the ego. It speaks as this urge to vanish. It's saying this version of you has to go. This identity has to die. Not because you're weak, because you're ready for more. What a gift. Most people live their whole lives on autopilot, never questioning, never waking. They die never having lived authentically. You get to die before you physically die. Let the false self go so the real one emerges. The pain you're feeling, it's real. Ego death is one of the most brutal things a person can experience. I'm not downplaying your suffering, I'm saying it means something. It's not random or a brain defect. It's the pain of transformation, the pain of being born into a new self. Same pain a butterfly feels breaking from its cocoon. A seed feels cracking open to become a tree. It's evolutionary pain. You're not just surviving depression. You're birthing a new self. You're undergoing spiritual rebirth, the most sacred process there is. This isn't for the faint of heart. It's for the courageous, those strong enough to release what no longer serves them. Now that you see what's actually happening, how do you navigate it? How do you honor the process without hurting yourself? Here's the critical distinction. There's a huge difference between letting your ego die and causing real physical harm. Your feelings aren't random. They have spiritual structure. They're part of humanity's ancient transformation journey. And there's a way through this dark night that honors ego death without endangering your body. You can vanish from your old life without vanishing entirely. Let the false self die while the real one is born. Go through metamorphosis with awareness and safety. But there's something we haven't addressed. A critical line between honoring ego death and mistaking spiritual transformation for self-destruction. Because the dying ego might convince you the only escape is total destruction. That's what we'll explore next. How to navigate safely, how to tell your soul's voice from the dying egos, and how to come out the other side not just surviving, but truly alive. Your perspective is already shifting. This is the beginning of the death you want, the death of old beliefs. What you thought was depression has a new name now. What terrified you as collapse is actually a portal. So what now? We turn this understanding into action. Insight is powerful, but transformation is revolutionary. First, let's define ego death practically. Not in pretty spiritual language. In your real life, your actual body, right now. Ego death is not physical death. Your body is the vessel for transformation. It's the sacred instrument of metamorphosis. Harming it doesn't complete the process. It stops it. Pay close attention. The disappearance you want is internal, letting go of who you thought you were. The stories you made about yourself. The masks for acceptance. The fake versions you created for others. That false identity should die. But you, the awareness watching all this, the consciousness reading right now, you're eternal. You're going nowhere. You're discovering who you actually are under the conditioning. How do we move through this safely? Honor the spiritual pull without losing ourselves. There are ancient practices for safe ego dissolution. Tools tested for thousands of years by people going through exactly what you're experiencing. Contemplative meditation, not the calm your mind kind. Meditation as identity investigation. You sit and watch your thoughts without becoming them. Fear arises and you think, I see fear, but I'm not fear. Sadness comes and you realize sadness is passing through, I'm the one watching it. Through this practice, ego loses its power. Ego only exists when you think you are your thoughts, emotions, reactions. When you observe without getting tangled up, the false identity can't hold on. Shadow work, facing the parts you rejected, anger you never allowed, desires you called wrong, ambition you killed to avoid seeming selfish. The ego survives through fragmentation. I'm only the good parts, the rest isn't me. Integrating the shadow destroys that lie. Solitude retreats, creating actual space for the old identity to collapse. Not a vacation. Intentional time away from every role you play. Not being a child, employee, partner, friend. Just you alone. No distractions, no performances, no masks. In that solitude, something magical occurs. Voices from others you internalized start to quiet. Expectations you carried as yours show themselves as borrowed. In the silence that's left, your true voice, muffled for years, begins whispering. Creative expression. Let the new self emerge through art, writing, movement. Not about making products. Creating as discovery. Pick up a pen without knowing what you'll write and let it move. Paint without planning. Dance without steps. In creation without ego control, something deeper speaks. The emerging identity uses your hands to announce itself. And you realize, so that's what was trying to get out. See this as sacred work. You're not fighting depression. You're birthing new consciousness. You're assisting your own rebirth. Your sensitivity to the ego illusion is rare. Most people never question identity. They live on autopilot their whole lives, repeating family patterns, performing childhood programming. You're different. Something in you woke up to the game. You saw the prison, now you're screaming to break free. This isn't sickness, it's awakening. Every moment of this crisis is the old you melting away. It's supposed to be agonizing. Imagine a butterfly still in the cocoon, the moment the caterpillar becomes liquid before reforming as wings. If it could think, it'd believe it's dying. But it's actually being born. You're not broken. You're awake to limits others ignore. You see the prison bars most call normal. Let's map the full cycle of breakdown and rebirth. Knowing where you are reduces the fear. Phase 1, crisis. The ego feels threatened. Everything you thought you were is questioned. You're probably here, disorientation, wanting to vanish. Nothing makes sense. Your identity is falling apart. Phase 2, surrender. You stop fighting. Stop trying to get back to normal. You see, normal was the cage. Let go of control. Accept the mystery of who you are. This scares you. It feels like quitting. But it's wisdom. It's trusting the journey. Phase 3, emptiness. A temporary space with no fixed identity. Not depression, dissolution. You're not empty of worth, empty of false labels. Like a house between owners. Like a field lying dormant before new growth. This emptiness is fertile. Pure possibility. Phase 4, emergence. The new self appears naturally. You don't force it, don't construct it. It rises like a spring from inside, spontaneous, real. When it arrives, you recognize, hey, this was always me, just buried under layers of conditioning. Where are you in this cycle? Likely between phase 1 and 2, feeling the crisis, but starting to grasp what it means. The next step is radical and practical. Disappear from what doesn't serve you. Exit the social roles that no longer fit. That personality you wore for family, let it go. That work persona that isn't really you, release it. Let relationships that feed the false self drop away. It's not cruelty, it's honesty. If a friendship only works with the mask on, it's not real. When you take it off and they vanish, the relationship was never with you, it was with the act. Stop being who others need you to be. They'll get uncomfortable. Let them. Their discomfort is about the roles you're dropping, not about your real self. Create actual solitude. Leave your usual surroundings if possible. Days, weeks, months, whatever works. Go somewhere no one knows your old narrative, where you don't have to be consistent with yesterday's version. Find guides who get awakening, not just labels. Therapists familiar with spiritual emergence. Communities honoring identity transformation. Teachers who've walked this path because you need help, but the right kind. Someone trying to drag you back to your old ego isn't helping, they're blocking your rebirth. What if you're in acute crisis right now? What if the urge to disappear is overwhelming? Remember, ego death is internal. Your body is sacred. It's the vehicle of transformation. Get support that honors both your safety and your spiritual path. Helplines exist. Professionals understand spiritual emergence. Communities are there. You're not alone. Not broken. You're awakening, and awakening needs witnesses who know the way. Your desire to disappear is your soul's wisdom. Trust it, honor it, grow through it, but grow safely, with intention, with help. Because the world needs you on the other side. It needs the real you trying to emerge. We started with a jolt, it's not depression. Now you get why. Depression is pathology. What you're experiencing is metamorphosis. Depression shuts doors. What you're experiencing opens them. Depression wants you back to normal. What you're experiencing destroys normal, because normal was the sickness. You came looking for reassurance. You're leaving with a map through the terrain between who you were and who you're becoming. Between fake identity and real essence. Between the life others built for you and the life from your truth. This knowledge separates survivors from those who evolve. Survivors return to normal after crisis. Evolvers use crisis as fuel for total transformation. You now have words for what psychology couldn't explain, a framework for what felt unspeakable, permission to honor the call instead of medicate it silent. And it matters. When you understand your journey, you become a light for others in the same darkness. Share this with others going through this. They need to know they're not broken. They need to hear the urge to vanish can be sacred. They need permission to die to who they were and be reborn. If this shifted your worldview, comment below. Your story might help someone see their own awakening. Your words could save someone from years of wrong diagnoses, could give another soul permission to trust themselves. Subscribe for more psychology, spirituality content. This channel is for people ready to look deeper than surface diagnoses. For those who know sometimes pathology is actually a doorway. Final note of safety plus affirmation. If you're in acute crisis, remember ego death is inner work. Your body is sacred. Get support that honors your safety and your spiritual path. You're not alone, not broken. You're awakening. And the world, the real one beyond the social construct, is waiting to meet who you actually are. Below the masks, below the conditioning, below every fake version, your essence, your truth, your real self being born through what they call depression. Welcome home to your actual life. It's been waiting.